Chapter 68, May 2004. I talked Daddy into letting me get my own vehicle. It was a pretty blue 2002 Ford F-250 pickup truck. It was a four-wheel drive Super Duty crew cab, and it was tall, badass, and very sharp looking. Daddy liked the truck too. After he looked it over, we put $4,000 down on it. I put up $3,000 and Daddy had given me another $1,000. The rest of the cost would go into a loan in my name with him as a co-signer. I would pay on it using the money I made from working with the band. I had enough money to pay for the truck in full because of the money I made some time ago modeling, but Daddy said it was important to establish credit. I was so excited about my new truck. I drove over and picked up Kevin and we buzzed all over town with it. "I love that lift kit on it," he exclaimed. "Oh my God, you're so lucky." I sure felt lucky. We took pictures and we did some mild four-wheeling with it. I would have loved to have bounced that truck into some heavy four-wheeling, but Daddy had already warned me about demolishing my truck before it was 2 hours old. Maybe one day when it was old and paid off, I'd do some heavy four-wheeling with it. The first place my dad had me drive to was a grocery store, which I rarely visited. Wow, I hadn't realized that having a vehicle of my own would have a downside. I met David in the parking lot of the grocery store. He had stopped to buy cigarettes. He looked over my new truck and was jealous of it, but he took some pictures of me and my truck anyway. I was beginning to like his attention and the picture taking. I leaned against my truck as we talked further. He was having problems with his family, as usual. His mom was on his case to go to college and to find a nice girl to date. He said she was always nagging him about both things. He was tired of his brother being his parents' favorite, and he was tired of his brother being a jerk to him. He moved closer to me as he finished complaining about them. "You know, if you were just a bit older and had some more experience, you'd be worth something. Mama might like you if you acted right, but she wouldn't go for that screaming guitar of yours," he told me as he stepped one step closer and put his hand on my waist. I was amused by his words. I never acted right, and I loved my screaming guitar. "I already have more experience than you do," I smirked. "I have experience," he assured me. "Why don't we break in that back seat of that fancy new truck of yours?" "Oh yeah," I decided. I moved even closer to him and put my hand on his ass. He jerked in surprise, and I realized that he hadn't expected me to call his bluff. And I hadn't realized he was playing me until then. I thought that he really wanted to have sex. It's too bad your dad is waiting for you to come home with groceries," he said. "He'll get over it," I smiled. "But hey, if you're nervous about still being a virgin, don't worry. I'll be easy on you and I'll show you what I've learned. In the past, you've certainly given me some experience. You've got a really nice piece and I'm on the pill. We could go to Lookout Point and christen that back seat like you suggested," I remarked as I leaned against him and moved my hips against him to feel his erection. He wasn't erect, and that confused me. Cole was always hard, and even Kevin got hard if we lingered in a hug. Hell, I was hard just standing there and fantasizing. "Hey," he exclaimed as he moved away from me. "Don't do that here. People will talk, and I sure don't want your dad kicking my ass." As a matter of fact, I better just go. This was a bad idea. As I watched him leave, I thought, "It was your idea, baby." Yeah, he was still a virgin, no doubt. A couple of days later, I drove over to Cole's house to pick him up for our date. I was seeing a lot of him lately. He had gotten a little better at sex, and he had money to spend. Right away, he wanted to test drive the truck, but I wouldn't let him. I knew he'd beat the hell out of it. He pouted a while, hoping to get me to change my mind, but I'd made my decision, and no amount of pouting was going to change it. We went roller skating at the roller rink in Greenville, and then we dropped by the pizza parlor in Whitmire. Our favorite hoods were busy terrorizing the place as usual. They followed us inside and helped us eat our pizza. They started harassing some young girl, and I stepped in and persuaded them to leave her alone. They called me a few choice names and went outside to guard the door. Cole wanted to stay a while and bullshit with them, so we went outside and joined them. They all had a beer in their hands, and one of them was toking on a joint. They offered us a beer. Cole accepted, and I refused. The same happened with the joint. The hoods got hostile with me. They only liked partiers, they told me. I could care less about what they liked. An hour later, I was done with it. I persuaded Cole to get in the truck so I could take him home. He was high and slightly drunk. I hated to see him that way, and I told him so. He only laughed at me. I knew he partied with these hoods a couple times a week, and nothing I said could stop him from doing it. I had given up nagging him about it. It was about 11:30 p.m. when I arrived home. I was surprised to see that Daddy was waiting for me. He rarely ever did. The minute I saw his face, I knew I'd better beware. "You're not still mad at me for fighting with Willie, are you?" I asked. It had been such a small fight in the school parking lot. "No, I'm not. I want a detailed explanation of where you've been tonight and what you've done," he demanded. I gave him a general description of my activities. "What exactly did you do at the pizza parlor?" he asked in a dead serious tone. I knew then what he was getting at. He knew that I rarely hung out with the hoods, but I never realized that he knew they partied there. He'd probably driven by and had seen me with them too. Otherwise, why would he be so concerned about what I was doing there? The guys were drinking and getting high. I didn't do either, though. "How can you not do either when you hang around kids that do those things?" he yelled. "I'm over that peer pressure stuff. You drilled it into my head all these years," I said as I stared back at him. "I love you, Dad. I wouldn't lie to you." He looked at me closely and saw that I was telling the truth. His expression softened and he said, "I'm sorry for doubting you, Bear Cub. It's just that I worry about you. It's hard being a parent. I don't want you to make a wrong decision like your mother did. I understand, but I see drugs and booze a lot of the places, and it doesn't make me want to try them. And so far, no one in the band does anything except beer. But don't worry, I don't want to taste beer either." I had lied, though. Every one of the band except me now smoked pot, and sometimes they liked other alcohol other than beer. Daddy sat down and talked to me about Cole's involvement in drugs and alcohol. He wasn't sure he wanted me to see Cole anymore. He informed me that he was going to have a talk with them. I knew then that Daddy had no idea that the rest of my friends smoked pot on a regular basis. He talked to Cole the next day. Cole informed me that he was still going to party no matter what anyone, including my father, thought about it. He told Daddy just the opposite. Cole was only fooling himself if he thought Daddy believed his bullshit. I thought about all of this and a lot of other things as I sat in my room. Kevin had just left. He'd vacuumed all the carpets in our house, had clothes washing in the washer, and had persuaded me to dust the furniture. I grumbled, of course, but Daddy and I had been on the outs for a day or two, and Kevin was convinced if the house was given a good cleaning, that would help to get my dad off my back. I ended up wielding a broom and sweeping the kitchen and hallways. As I washed the dishes, I glanced a time or two at Kevin, who was mopping the kitchen floor. The song that was playing on the radio was about knowing who your friends were. "Kevin, why are you doing this? Why do you always help me?" I found my mouth saying. He stopped and leaned on the mop. I took in the lemony smell of the floor cleanser he was using. I'd always loved the clean smell of lemon. "Because I'm your best friend and I got your back. You've got my back and I've got yours." Obviously, he had been listening to the song lyrics too. I jerked as a strange sensation hit me. I suddenly felt responsibility for him as well as guilt, gratitude, safety, connection, and friendship. I'd never gotten along with people my age before. Maybe my heart thawed at that moment and I let my guard down. I don't know. But now he felt like family. The voices in my head were clapping and whistling. Yep, the Lifetime channel had nothing on my life. It was different now, this moment later. He finished mopping and dried the dishes as I put them away. I still wasn't as motivated to do housework as I should have been. He had me folding clothes and putting them away as he put in another load. As the last load dried, he asked me if I had any money to do grocery shopping. I guess a look was on my face about shopping. "Don't worry, you can sit in the truck. I'll go in and slay the scary monsters and come out victorious," he told me. Then he laughed. "You're so silly, scared of going into stores." He didn't know that all the emotions and energy of a lot of people threw me off balance. And I don't know why I never told him. "Okay, be the hero," I agreed instead. Returning with $50 worth of groceries, Kevin put them away. We picked up some dollar burgers on the way home, so we ate them, put away the last of the clothes that were dried. I wondered if this was how it would be once I was married. Cole had never done anything like this for me. He had never done a lick of housework for me. He didn't like my dad. He didn't like my friends. And sometimes I ended up paying if we went to a fast food place. And he didn't have a problem that I didn't talk about my past, because all he talked about was himself. Daddy had told me to break up with Cole, and initially that had made me angry, and I hadn't done it. But now I realized, after I compared my relationship with Kevin to the relationship I had with Cole, we weren't even friends, let alone girlfriend and boyfriend. Cole was just a sleeping buddy, one that sometimes didn't fulfill me. I picked him up that night to go hang with his friends. "Cole, what do you see in me?" I asked him as I watched one of his punk buddies hustle a game of pool. The rest of his buddies were either drinking, playing pool, or sneaking looks and fondles of the girls they were with. Cole took a drag off his cigarette and blew it past me. He put the cigarette in the ashtray. The smoke curled up into the rest of the smoky atmosphere of the bar. "Baby, you are the hottest chick in at least the state of South Carolina, and absolutely the best fuck in the United States," he said in a slow drawl as he smiled a bedroom smile at me. His breath was smoky, but I also caught a drift of beer from him. I imagined that he had probably been high earlier and maybe still was. He brushed against my breast and I pushed his arm away. He knew I didn't like him to do stuff like that in public. I glanced across the room at another couple who were probably 10 years older than we were. The guy was being so gentle and sweet with his girl. I could tell by the look of love on his face and hers and the way he interacted with her. It reminded me of Kevin. I'd seen him behave that way with Wendy, and he was always doing stuff for me. On more than one occasion, he'd bought me a soda or had picked a wildflower to give me, even though we weren't a couple. He was good to all his friends, and he hugged most everybody, even his guy friends. I couldn't think of a time lately that Cole had done anything for me. I love Cole's blue eyes, gorgeous face, and toned body. "Not only that, but you're a badass," he continued. "You walk anywhere and people get out of your way. They stare and fantasize first, but they get the fuck out of your way. You're smart and a hell of a drummer, too. Hell, maybe you'll make it big in a few years and we can live high on the hog. That would be the easy life." I glanced again at the other couple. They were dancing now. I doubted that he was telling her she was the best fuck ever and that she could get famous and support his ass. I snorted. My own boyfriend didn't even know I was badass on guitar. We'd never even danced together. I glanced once more at the loving couple. They were laughing together now. I slipped Cole's ring off my finger and turned back to him. "Whatever this thing is that we've been doing, I'm over it. Bye," I told him as I put his ring on the table in front of him. He said that I was a cunt and that he was tired of me fucking the guys in the band anyway. I was going to blow my top at him, but when he'd said his piece, I stared back and replied, "All of them are 100% better at fucking me than you are." He followed me outside and was really yelling when I spun away in my new truck. His buddies were there with him then, supporting him. I found that after all was said and done that I was glad to be rid of him. He'd always been selfish in bed and we didn't have anything in common. It was sad to realize that the only thing I liked about him was that he was easily the best looking guy in South Carolina. Damn that dark hair, those smoldering blue eyes, that killer body, and those cowboy boots. I couldn't help thinking that if he had some of Kevin's personality in him and cared to please me in bed, that it would have been a match made in heaven. With Cole out of the picture, David asked me out. To say I was shocked would put it mildly, but I was attracted to him and I accepted. When he came to pick me up for our date, my dad thoroughly grilled him about where we were going and what we were going to do, and that I was a lot younger than he was. There was to be no drinking, no drugs, and no sex. It was like my dad was someone else rather than the easygoing personality he'd always shown my guys. "Can we go now?" I asked. I didn't understand why he was grilling us. He already knew that David was a good guy. "Did you hear what I just said?" Daddy asked me. "Yes. You said sex is fun, but don't do it. And we don't do the other stuff anyway." "But you've had sex before." His eyes widened. "No, we have not," I emphasized. "We're just friends. We haven't done anything." We hadn't done anything since that time at the creek so long ago. While David stood there embarrassed, Daddy gave me one last stare and said, "Okay, have a good time and be home by your curfew." David brought out his camera for Daddy to take a picture of us. I had to laugh at that. As we walked to David's car, he said to me, "I can't believe your dad lets you mouth off to him like that." "Oh, he'll bust my butt when I get home. He just won't do it in front of you," I replied offhandedly. "Really?" "Oh, he's not going to hit me or anything. He'll just ground me or give me a shitload of chores to do." Hell, in my house, I couldn't smart off a fraction of what you just did, but I'd get my ass whipped to hell and back. "I didn't mouth off to him. We just had an honest conversation," I replied. I was aware that other kids minded their parents and were afraid of them. However, if I'd given the same response to Bob, he would have whipped my ass without a thought. He'd done it before, too, when him and Nancy had been babysitting me. I was glad I didn't have Bob for a dad. "A while back, I asked my dad if he could live with us," I told David. His head jerked in surprise, and now he was staring at me with his mouth open. "Why?" "Because you've been having trouble at home, and I wanted to see if I could help you." He closed his mouth. "But your dad didn't go for it, huh?" "No." "Too bad. I really would like to get away from my family. It's cool that you asked him." For our date, we were going to Greenville to see an action movie. I entertained David with my wit on the ride there, and he thought I was funny. "You're pretty cool," he told me adoringly as he pulled into the parking lot at the movie theater. "Kiss me," I told him as he shut off the engine. He looked hesitant, but he did give me a short kiss. I was looking for a long kiss and sex in the parking lot, then an action movie with buttered popcorn. We saw our movie, but he didn't put his arm around me or anything, and I was disappointed. The movie was almost over when I put my hand in his as it rested on his lap, and he let me. We were back in the car. I suggested we go parking. "We can't do that. Your dad reminded me twice that you're a minor. He kicked my ass," David protested. "But I really want to see Lookout Point and get myself some," I replied. He protested a few minutes more, but then I reminded him of how he got me drunk at the creek so long ago and how we had touched each other. He put the car in gear and we were at Lookout Point. It seemed like he really didn't want to kiss, so I took his hand and put it on my breast. "Touch me," I told him. Then I moved my hand down to his crotch. He seemed startled as I felt him, but he immediately was hard and liked what I was doing. "Suck on me," he pleaded. So I did, and he came really fast. Wow, so he was still a virgin. I wondered if I'd just give him his first blowjob. I wanted him to get me off, but now he was nervous and knew that we should drive back home to make my curfew. Hell, we had 15 minutes, and that was time enough to have sex. I didn't talk to him the entire way home. I was so angry. Men were jerks, only concerned about their own satisfaction. "You're just a tease. Thanks for nothing," I told him as I got out of his car and huffed up to our front door. I heard him drive away. Daddy was waiting for me. He could tell from the look on my face that the date had not gone well. "What's the matter? Did he pressure you to have sex with him?" he asked in a concerned voice. "No, Dad. That was the whole damn problem. He wouldn't do nothing with me. He was afraid to kiss me or hold my hand because of the lecture you gave him before we left. I knew my dad was angry, but he sat down with me. You shouldn't have scared him by telling him you were going to kick his ass, I complained as I sat down and propped my feet up on the coffee table. I didn't tell him that I was going to kick his ass. All I said was to behave. I turned my head towards him and gave him the look. And you don't need to know about my sex life anyways. You seem to think that I've been screwing every guy out there, but I've only ever had sex with Cole and a time or two with Kevin. He went on to remind me that dates were to get to know someone, not just to make out and have sex, and that it was best that I learned that so I could have a good relationship, not just a sexual relationship with a man. Yeah, whatever. All I knew is that I wasn't going out with David anymore. I was tired of guys who just wanted to take but wouldn't give. And I did have a relationship with David and Kevin. We were friends. Well, Kevin and I were friends anyway. It wasn't like we just met. I wasn't sure anymore about David. It was worse when I met up with the others to practice as a band. They teased us and made us both angry. It took a while for that to blow over.